and welcome to the 8th episode of Season 2 of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, ElderPunk, and with me as always, it's my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on?
Not too much. I'm ready for some football.
I was about to say, are you as hyped up as I am for tomorrow night?
Absolutely. I mean, it is your team, so I'm sure you're a little more hyped, but I'm just hyped to see football back.
Yes, exactly. It's going to make it weird for the debut Sunday or week 1 Sunday to not have my team playing on it, but I guess I can live with a Thursday night game. And I did notice when I was looking at their schedule that they have another Thursday night game within like a month. They have a Sunday night and a Monday night game this season, so they got some love on the primetime games.
Oh,
nice.
Big expectations for the Lions.
Yeah, it'll be sweet. Well, that just brings us into. It reminded me of something I wrote for one of our top 5 entries here. So this week top 5, I decided to go with the week 1 matchups to watch. What are the top 5 matchups that you looked at the schedule and you're like, I want to see what happens in this game for week 1. So I'll start with the one that made me think of this, and that is my number 3 game, and that's the Buccaneers at the Vikings. And talking about big expectations for the Lions, there's only, in my mind right now, before any games are played, there's one team that has a chance that's going to be fighting with the Lions for the NFC North, and that is the Vikings. So Buccaneers at the Vikings. I want to see what the Vikings have in week 1 against the Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. This was actually a really hard list because looking at the schedule for week 1, man, there are some really good matchups, and week 1's always exciting just because it's finally back to football. But my first one is Green Bay at Chicago. It's a rivalry game, so I mean, that's always exciting. But it's also Jordan Love's first coming out party type thing. His first start, I believe, in the NFL, but you know, the team's his now, and there's all the hype around Justin Fields in Chicago. So, I mean, just sprinkling that into an already fun rivalry, I'm excited to watch that one.
Can you tell by the first 2 already, if you're listening, that we are around the NFC North a lot? Or around people that like the NFC North a lot?
Yes, yeah. And the NFC in general.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, to your point about week 1, last year, I remember, didn't Houston win in the first week, be breaking expectations, and everyone's like, "Oh, are the Texans good?"
Yes, I believe that was they beat the Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken.
I just remember last season after week 1, we were like, "What's going on?" Because the Bears won as well, and I think they won like the first 2 games or something.
The Texans tied the Colts in week 1 last year.
Okay, that one was. They didn't lose.
But they did win. I remember what you're talking about. They did win an improbable game in week 1 year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. They beat Jacksonville in 2021, which no one saw coming. But that's the exciting thing about week 1. And you know, we'll get into our picks later. But I did pick a couple upsets because they always happen. I mean, you know, crazy things happen in week 1.
Exactly. My next game up, I have the Bengals at the Browns. I always love this game because it's besides the big cities like New York and California, so LA, as well as they don't have Oakland anymore. So LA and New York, the battle for Ohio, the only other state. Well, Florida has a couple teams in Florida as well, but one of the few states with 2 teams in it. And Texas. So, good Lord, there's a lot of them I didn't even think about. Okay, so, one of the few, 10 of the 32 teams, at least so far, in-state rivalry, Bengals at Browns, big one, week 1. It'll be fun to see Deshaun Watson starting the season and seeing what they can do with a full season of Deshaun Watson, as well as the Bengals are my Super Bowl pick, so it'll be interesting to see how they come out to start the season, because last season they won, I think it was 8 or 9 games going into the playoffs with a rough start to the season. So we'll see if they can start off strong, or if the Browns decide to start off strong.
Yeah, this one definitely would have been on my list, because not only do you have the Deshaun Watson storyline, you've got Joe Burrow, been hurt for a couple of weeks, haven't seen him in August, so is he healthy type thing. I love the Bengals. They're just a fun team to watch. I love Nick Chubb. So the Browns should be a fun team this year too. So yeah, this ought to be a really good matchup in week 1, and again whenever they play in Cincinnati later in the season. And AFC North's just going to be a fun division this year. It's
just crazy to think that the Bengals and Browns are expected to be good in the same year.
Yeah.
Like, this is the world we live in now. That's the way. That's the way quarterbacks can turn around a team. So,
gotta love parity. Speaking of quarterbacks, my number 2. It sounds weird, but it's actually Carolina and Atlanta. Mainly because we're getting 2 of the top 10 picks in the draft starting.
I like
Bryce Young for Carolina. Okay. Yeah. Well, and you get Bijan Robinson, who I drafted in a couple leagues, and then you get Bryce Young for Carolina. I mean, and these are 2 teams that I would not surprise me if they were actually fighting for the NFC South this year. I mean, the Saints are good, the Bucks look okay, but one of these teams could surprise, and I always like to see how rookies perform in week 1.
And I'm looking forward to see who emerges for Carolina as the number 1 receiver, at least the number 1 targeted receiver in week 1, because they've got Thielen, who is actually might miss the game from what I saw today. Thielen, DJ Chark, Mingo, Terrace Marshall, those 4 are in the mix, and nobody really knows who the main guy is going to be. So we shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so for my third game, I've got the Raiders at the Broncos, because I am curious to see how the Sean Payton era starts for the Broncos, especially reading stories today about how Sean Payton speaks to his quarterback very disparagingly, apparently, from reports. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on with the Broncos this season, as well as I'm excited to see Jimmy Garoppolo and the Raiders, and just to see what Josh McDaniels can do with his guys this season. So that'll be interesting. Something to watch for sure.
Yeah, a lot of talk about the Broncos being a completely different team because they actually have a coach this year. So see how that pans out. And then I'm not a super big fan of the Raiders this year. It's nice Josh Jacobs is going to be back. But I'm curious to see what Jimmy Garoppolo can do in that offense, and should be a fun game. But neither one of these teams are really my playoff picks.
Yeah, I thought the craziest part to me is that the Broncos are favored over the Raiders, and I thought the Raiders would be favored. I know they're playing in Denver, but that one just surprised me that the Broncos are favored in the game.
Yeah, a lot of people are expecting a bounce back year from the Broncos. So
Vegas is buying
this week 1, yeah, this week 1 will be a good test for them. My number 3 is San Francisco at Pittsburgh. You're getting 2 year 2 quarterbacks in first rounder Kenny Pickett and Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. So curious to see, does Brock Purdy fall back down to earth a little bit? Can he keep up the stretch he had in the playoffs last year? Kenny Pickett looked amazing in the preseason. Can it translate to the regular season? So this is one of those games that, obviously everything says the 49ers should win it, but I would not be surprised if Pittsburgh pulled this out.
Pittsburgh's got an interesting team for sure. And the thing about, you could never count out a Mike Tomlin team. That guy is one of the best coaches in the NFL. If not,
he is.
He's definitely top 5 for me.
Yeah,
there's a reason people like him and John Harbaugh and him, just 2 stalwart coaches that even when they have bad years, you're not worried about them being your coach, So
yeah, he's just a super consistent coach and has been for more than a decade, I think.
Ever since Bill Cowher retired, and you're like, who's this Tomlin guy? They were totally fine after Cowher left. So
yeah,
yep. Just that's crazy to think too, right? Like, they have not had another coach since Cowher. Tomlin took over, and Cowher's been gone a long time. Tomlin's just been that stalwart coach. So
Well, they had Cowher for a long time. They've had like 2 coaches in like 30 years.
yeah, these are
Compare
the
that
stories.
to our teams.
15 years from now, you'll be like, yes, the Bill Cowher era or the Mike Tomlin era. They're actually eras, not the Steve Wilkes era of Arizona 1 year.
Yeah.
Things like that. So
Very short era.
next up for me, I got the Bills at the Jets. I'm excited for this one to see Aaron Rodgers debut for the Jets against AFC Elite. I don't know if you saw this week, but Tom Brady thinks that Aaron Rodgers will be invigorated leaving the city that he played for his whole career. Tom Brady believes in the Aaron Rodgers hype. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I'm not going to lie, we've seen it, all right? Peyton Manning, reinvigorated when he left the Colts. Tom Brady, invigorated when he left the Patriots. Will it be the same for Aaron Rodgers, or will it be Russell Wilson-esque invigoration? But the thing about Russell Wilson, he wasn't in Seattle.
In New York.
He wasn't in Seattle as long as those two were in New England and Green Bay. So maybe it's not the same, but I mean, we'll see. Well, I'm interested.
Yeah, I expect more of the Brett Favre 1 year in New York thing that he did before he went to Minnesota and actually wasn't reinvigorated. I don't think Rodgers is going to be anywhere near the level he was 2 years ago. He wasn't even that great his last couple of years in Green Bay. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I don't have very high expectations.
I will say this. If you didn't draft Garrett Wilson and you're playing against him, you're in trouble. That guy is a beast. And to have Aaron Rodgers throwing to him now, that's insane. He's going to be insane this season.
Yeah. That'll be a fun game, especially against the Bills. That's a tough test to start off with.
No.
Good Monday night matchup. My number 4 is Miami and the Chargers. Simply because, I like the Chargers. I like the Dolphins. I ended up drafting Tua as my quarterback in a couple leagues. And this should just be a high-scoring game. These two offenses, this one should be like a 38-35 game. Hopefully, very exciting. Lots of long touchdowns. Those are always fun games to watch.
Yep, I agree. It's going to be a fun one. I like Miami. I like watching Miami's offense in general. I also like watching the Chargers offense. Now having them going head-to-head, this should be a high-scoring game, I think. I don't know much about their defenses, but I don't think it really matters too much.
I know Miami's got a fairly good one, and the Chargers' defense has struggled the last couple of years, so it might be one-sided with Miami, but that at least means the Chargers are going to have to throw a lot.
Which is funny because the Chargers have so many big names on their defense.
Yep.
So
Derwin James, Joey Bosa.
Nope.
Yeah.
My last of the week, obviously, the Lions at the Chiefs tomorrow night. My team, the Lions, with all the hype around them, facing off to start the season against the Super Bowl champions. So I'm really looking forward to this game. I would like to pretend that I wish Kelsey and Chris Jones were playing, but I don't. They're not playing, so that makes me happy because it gives us a better chance of winning, and I'm totally okay with that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad that we only have to wait another 24 hours to watch this one from when we record, because this ought to be a really telling game to see if the Lions are at the level everybody's talking about them at. Are the Chiefs going to bounce back immediately from their Super Bowl win, or is it going to be like 2 years ago after they won the Super Bowl where they struggled to start the year? And yeah, without Kelsey and Chris Jones, what's that offense going to look like? It's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how our offense looks because a lot of people don't even really talk about or think about the fact that the Lions' running game is completely different than it was last season.
Absolutely.
They don't have DeAndre Swift. They don't have Jamal Williams. Now we're running with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, two people that have never played a single regular season down for the Lions. And
aren't those their only two quarterbacks on the roster or running backs on the roster?
So when I talked about that during the Cut Down podcast, they only kept 2. But they only kept 2 for the single reason that they put Julian Okwara on the active roster to immediately put him on the IR so that they could sign Craig Reynolds off of their practice squad to be the third running back. So they do have 3.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I would much rather have had Zonovan Knight on the active list than Craig Reynolds, but Craig Reynolds is what we got. So at least Knight is still on the practice squad.
Yeah, that was a good sign by them to the practice squad.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I hope to see him around. I don't know that we'll see him this season, but guys like that always end up preseason the next year, hopefully popping off. So we'll see.
Well, and you know, bound with injuries or even missing 1 or 2 games, that I figure he'll be on the active roster at least once this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So my last game, just like you picking the Lions, I'm going with the Cardinals and Commanders. Obviously, it's great because they're both my teams, but it's also fun as a Commanders fan because it's the start of a new era, as we talked about earlier. I mean, new owner. Sam Howell's first start as QB1 besides Week 18 last year. I mean, there's a lot riding on the game for Sam. It on paper should be one-sided. The Cardinals are in full tank mode. They haven't even announced their starting quarterback.
They did today.
Match yet.
It's Josh Dobbs.
It leaked. The Coach Gannon still. Oh, he's playing mind games by not announcing it. What a jackass!
What mind? Okay, I heard this on the radio tape. What is the mind game?
The defense doesn't know who to prepare for.
Here's the thing: neither of them have a book on them. They both have at most a pamphlet. There's nothing surprising about there's nothing that you're going to give away by saying which one's your starter. Neither of them have much tape, if any tape, in the NFL. So I don't understand this play. I feel like it's more of how did practice go this week? Okay, then you're going to start. And I don't think it's a mind game. I think he literally does not know who he wants to start.
I feel like he thinks he's playing mind games, which just to me is telling that he is a jackass. Not making a great first impression, I'll be honest. After that speech he gave, and now this, I'm just looking at him like, oh, you're one and done. We'll see.
I will say this: I think in game he did very well in the preseason. His decisions in game were good, not so much off the field. When he talks, I don't want to listen so far.
No.
But I think that he's a good coach. But
well, we'll see because
press conference guy, not so much.
They're basically giving up on this season, but
yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm still excited to watch the game. I mean, at the very least, the Cardinals have some players I still like Buda Baker and James Conner. But realistically, the big story for me is just what does Sam Howell do? How does he look? Does he look like he did in the preseason? Is he gonna play well? Because basically our entire season in Washington rides on his shoulders.
Yeah. Why is this story not coming up? There we go. Okay, so let's get into the news. Those are the games we want to watch this week. I'll probably be watching most of them on Red Zone. Morning time. The Apple. I don't know if you never responded to the picture I sent you, but did you see how you can set up your screen with Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV, where I can put the 4 games on?
Yeah,
dude, it's gonna be sick. I'm gonna have Red Zone in one.
Yeah, that too.
Not on the app on PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
So I will be able to control it much better than I could on the PlayStation. But yeah, going to be sick. Really excited for it. But yeah, on the morning I'm just going to watch probably the Cardinals Commanders with a picture-in-picture of Red Zone. And then in the afternoon, since it's not Lions or Cardinals, I'll probably have 4 different games up because there's only ever 4 games in the afternoon.
Well, the frustrating thing is, so if it's a local game like Cardinals Commanders, and it's on the regular Fox network.
Which is fine because since it's on YouTube TV, which is also my TV program, I can put regular TV into one of the 4 squares.
Right, but for everybody who doesn't have YouTube TV, you have to go back and forth between your inputs.
True.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for years, so I feel their problem.
Yeah.
But I don't have to do it anymore because when I would watch the afternoon games and I didn't want to straight up watch the Cardinals game, I would be in the app watching Sunday Ticket, and then if I wanted to switch over to the Cardinals game, I had to leave that app, load another one, go to the channel of the game. When it went to commercial, I had to close that out, open up, and it's super annoying. So I understand that.
Yeah.
I am glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's going to be the annoying one. But it probably just means I'm going to end up just watching commercials because I'm too lazy to do all that work.
I got you, bro. I got you.
I'll just sit through commercials like it's the 90s.
Dude. Imagine there wasn't a skip button on YouTube. All right, so I got a story here up from Yahoo Sports on NFL, on their NFL coverage. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I thought it was a good story for what's going on going into the season as far as who's holding out, who's suspended, and who's injured going into the season. Because it's hard to find like a compiled list of this type of stuff, like big names. We're not worried about the little 1 to 2 games here or who's questionable, but these are the big ones here, right? So we'll start with the holdouts. It's funny because they updated the story because earlier today it had Nick Bosa on it, but Nick Bosa, as you have in your notes here, signed a 5-year, $170 million contract today.
Ridiculous. To
be the highest paid defensive player and highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So good for him, and takes him right off this list. And he was holding out up until now, so he's got a few days to practice before week 1. But a guy like Nick Bosa, I don't think you have to worry about. So
yeah, the coach actually said that the only way he won't play is if he shows up with a beer belly. Which obviously he's not going to. So
I would hope that they know that before they sign him to that.
Yes.
So, but the only top holdout that's left is Kansas City's defensive lineman Chris Jones, Mr. 15.5 sacks last year, 2 forced fumbles. Has not been at practice, has not practiced, has no signs of showing up. So yeah, we'll see how long this holdout happens.
Today, that he might show up tomorrow and play. So okay. I would be surprised if you're holding out on training camp of the preseason, then just decide, you know what, I will show up for game day. Now it may be so that he doesn't miss out on his check. But yeah, that would definitely be a surprise.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. We'll see, but whether he does or doesn't, at least if he does, he has not practiced or played for ever. So I don't expect
it's the Super Bowl probably.
I don't expect full tilt Chris Jones tomorrow night, even if he shows up. So that's good at least for me as a Lions fans. Suspended players, You've got Alvin Kamara, who's got a 3-game suspension over a battery charge from a fight in Las Vegas. So he'll be out for the first 3 games. So if you have Jamal Williams, you're in a good spot. Kendre Miller, the rookie, should get some spot touches, but I wouldn't advise picking him up unless you're in a dynasty or a keeper league. That I don't think you're going to see much of him this year. But I don't know how many years Kamara has left in New Orleans, so we'll see just what happens with that rookie. But Kamara out 3 games. The next one that just sucks the wind out of me, Jameson Williams is out for the first 6 games of the season for the Lions, which really sucks because we need receivers badly. But Jameson Williams suspended for violations of the NFL's gambling policy. So he will be out the first 6 weeks.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was because he was betting at the team facility, right? Like it wasn't that he was betting on Lions games.
Yeah, he was just betting he wasn't even betting on the NFL because the NFL wasn't even season. He was betting on, I think, baseball at the Lions facility.
That's the dumbest way to get caught, in my opinion. The fact that you couldn't wait until you got home to place your bets or do it in the morning before you go to the facility, like.
Well, he didn't know the rule.
Is that what it was? He had no idea what the rule was?
Well, he didn't know he wasn't allowed to bet on baseball at a team facility. And I don't blame him.
When the NFL came out with their rule, they said no betting at the team facility. So he just didn't read the rule.
Come on, rookie. I know the rule probably came out before you got to the NFL, but you gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys Ronald Jones is out 2 games for violating the PED policy. That's what happens when you're an old running back. Some of them turn to those things, but he's going to be out, and now all they've got is Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn, the 5'5" guy.
Okay, yeah, Deuce Vaughn. So they are really looking forward to Ronald Jones coming back right now. I did see they were talking about, didn't James Robinson visit the Cowboys in the last couple of days, I think?
He visited the Colts. I heard that one.
Oh, it was the Colts. Cowboys. Someone visited the Cowboys. Kareem Hunt, I think, maybe.
Oh,
I think
really?
I think he visited the Cowboys this week. So they're looking for something because they are not.
They should be.
Their backups are. When you have Ezekiel Elliott and a backup like Tony Pollard, you're in a good spot. When you have Tony Pollard and no backup to speak of, that's a bad situation. So, Jacksonville Jaguars offensive tackle Cam Robinson suspended 4 games for PEDs. So a thin line already thinner for Trevor Lawrence. That's going to be rough for him, but hopefully he's fine. Well, we shall see.
Well, hopefully only 4 games won't be too bad. But yeah,
this next one's kind of crazy. Kansas City's defensive end Charles Iminahu? I don't know how you say his last name. Charged with misdemeanor domestic violence charge. When he was with the 49ers, Chiefs still signed him, even though he's had a 6-game suspension to start this season. So Chiefs are without the defensive end they signed, without Chris Jones. So having a little thinner defensive line at the moment in KC.
Yeah, that's really pretty interesting move to sign a guy who's going to miss 6 games. But
honestly, that sounds like a Cowboys
I don't really
thing
know
to me.
The Chiefs' defense well enough to know who their starters are on the ends.
Yeah, Chris Jones. That's all I need to know about their defensive line.
Yeah, I know like Frank Clark. I think they used to have, but I think he's gone now.
Let me just look because I'm curious now.
Let me drink while you do that.
Kansas City's defensive line is George Karlaftis, of course, the rookie from last year. And then 3 names I've never heard of. Derek Nandi, Tershawn Wharton, and Mike Dana. So, yeah. Not sure. George Karlaftis, though, very good rookie last year. Definitely remember that name now that I look at it. Let's move into injuries. Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, late addition to this list, hurt his knee in practice Tuesday. So yesterday hurt himself. Not, thankfully for Kansas City Chiefs fans, a major injury, but his knee was swollen huge. And the odds that he's playing tomorrow are very small. And that makes week 2 put into question too. And who knows how long this will last. Knees are not something that normally heal very quickly. So Travis Kelce out, more than likely, after an injury in practice right before the season starts. So rough start for all those fantasy managers that drafted Kelce high, didn't draft a backup tight end. They're dropping someone that they drafted looking for a tight end this week. So, yeah, interesting. Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. Taylor was put on the IR for the first 4 games after ankle injury still nagging him from last season, supposedly. So he's going to be out at least the first 4 weeks. And who knows what happens after that, whether he plays for the Colts or they're spending that 4 weeks looking for the trade that they want, that they're not going to get because people already offered them good things, but they said no. So we'll see what happens with Jonathan Taylor, but we do know that he's definitely out for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think he plays for the Colts this season. He'll probably get traded at some point, or he'll sit out the whole year. But I don't see him in the Colts uniform again.
That's so rough, though, for a running back, because the biggest reason they're not being paid is because once they get older, you can replace them with someone younger. So to spend one of your prime years of running back football sitting out, that's just so rough. I hope that is taken care of quickly. The other one is Arizona Cardinals QB Kyler Murray, which we talked about a lot on this podcast. But Murray's still working back from his ACL injury. No timetable for his return, but we have been told that he will play when he's back by all the coaching staff in Arizona. So we'll see what happens.
I completely believe them.
And as far as when that happens, who knows? If they're losing to start the season very badly, what are the odds that he rushes back from his injury? We'll see. I'd say week 8. That's my guess. Week 8, he'll be back. People are saying week 4, but I think week 8 because they're going to lose a lot.
Yeah, as soon as he's eligible, he's going to come back. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's rushing back to be losing. So, Miami Dolphins cornerback Jalen Ramsey. My Dolphins traded for Jalen Ramsey this offseason, and he needed a meniscus in his knee to be repaired. So it won't be until at least December before he comes back. So if Miami's in a good spot for the playoffs, that'll be a massive addition for them when he comes back. But they're definitely going to miss him until December because Jalen Ramsey, one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, that kind of sucks for Miami after trading for him because their defense, like they had Xavier Howard, Bradley Chubb on the defensive line, like they've got fairly good defense, but losing Jalen Ramsey really hurts.
Yeah, they are rolling with, let's see, Xavier Howard, who we talked about, who's very good, and a guy named Kader Kahoo, which is interesting that he's the starter while Eli Apple, who they also just signed, is sitting on their second string. Maybe he's the nickel guy.
I was going to say, I think Eli Apple's more of a slot guy anyways.
So, yep, and staying on the Dolphins, Jeff Wilson Jr. Wilson surprisingly went on the IR due to multiple injuries. He was supposed to split time with teaming up with Raheem Mostert. So, very good news for Devon Achane. If you don't know about Devon Achane, you're going to. I feel like he's going to have a big impact with Wilson out. And when Wilson comes back, who knows if Devon's pushed back down the roster because he showed a lot for the preseason. Got a lot of people hyped up for him, and now he's getting a chance. So we'll see what happens. Buffalo Bills offensive outside linebacker Von Miller tore his ACL last Thanksgiving. Could be ready week 1, but he was placed on the PUP list, so out at least 4 weeks. Yeah. Good. Even though he's old, he did really well last season. So
it's tough to return from a torn Achilles at that age in 9 months, 10 months. Like that would be pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, for sure. As well, you've got Denver Broncos wide receiver Tim Patrick, who will miss his second straight season due to injury. And this just makes me so upset because I remember 4 seasons ago, or 3 seasons ago, as well as 2 seasons ago, how well he was doing for the Broncos. Then to have last season taken from him and already know for sure this season's taken from him. Good receiver, just getting a bad break right now. So he'll be out the entire season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's to miss 2 full seasons in a row. It reminds me of the I can't remember his name right now. The Commanders had picked up a linebacker that the 49ers cut, and the dude ended up missing like 2 straight seasons and never played a down for us, I believe. So, I mean, it's an unfortunate part of football, the injuries, but for somebody to get hit 2 full years in a row like that, I mean, that just sucks for him.
On different injuries, right? If it was the same injury keeping him out for 2 seasons?
Yeah, first one was torn ACL and then torn Achilles.
Yeah. So it's like, that's just such bad luck.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he's like, that's 2 years of your career, especially for receiver. I mean, as you approach 30, teams kind of start giving up on you. So,
Yep, I agree. Yeah, especially and then you got players coming in that are like getting all that 2 years worth of work to move up the roster in front of you. Now you've got to prove yourself all over again. It's just rough. Tampa Bay Buccaneers center Ryan Jensen suffered a knee injury last year in training camp, is still affected. Put him on the IR. So, gonna be rough not having the starting center there for Baker Mayfield. Not Baker Mayfield.
yeah, that's crazy.
Is it Baker Mayfield? Yeah, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. They announced Baker the starter.
So, yep. Those are your major injuries, suspensions, and holdouts for the going into the season. So now you know. Thanks again to Yahoo Sports for that. That was an awesome article.
Yeah, that was a good breakdown.
What else you got for the news this week that I missed?
So mostly just some week 1 injury availability. We talked about Nick Bosa's big contract, so we won't go back into that. Cooper Kupp aggravated his hamstring in the preseason and has already announced that he will miss week 1. And they did not say whether or not he would go on IR, but they also said he definitely, they didn't definitively say he wouldn't. So there's always that possibility, which would mean he'd miss at least 4 weeks. Sucks for him after getting hurt last year to re-aggravate that injury. And I mean, he was on track to like break receiving records last season before he got hurt. And yeah, really, really rough. We were just talking about Tim Patrick, and it's same thing with Cooper Kupp. I mean, to miss so much time.
Do you know who Kupp's reminded me of now?
No.
Mike Thomas.
Oh, that's a good one.
One of the best receivers in the NFL. Suddenly cannot stay healthy, and you just eventually wind up forgetting about him. So hopefully Cooper's not that hurt, and he's not in the same situation, because it's taken to this year. Mike Thomas, everyone is high on Mike Thomas again, but that's happened several times for Mike Thomas, and he's gotten re-injured multiple times in his career. So hopefully Cooper Kupp isn't going down that same road, because like Mike Thomas, he was the top of the wide receiver list. And now he's just right sitting there in the we don't know what's going to happen with this guy zone.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just going to say that Michael Thomas started getting hurt after he signed his big contract. And amazingly, Cooper Kupp signed his big contract last June and then started getting hurt. So not implying anything, just saying what a weird coincidence that is.
Yep.
But anyways, so Travis Kelce, you did mention, I believe, Travis Kelce got a bone bruise in his knee. They've listed him as questionable for week 1. I don't know how he plays 2 days after suffering a bone bruise. Yeah,
they said that his knee was swollen 2 times its normal size. That ain't going down in 2 days.
But knowing Andy Reid, they just don't want to list him as out and give the Lions any idea what they're doing. Even if he's active,
right out of the Jonathan Gannon playbook.
Yeah, I think he's just a decoy. They'll put him out there so that the Lions have to double cover him, but Kelsey's not doing anything under that knee.
Yeah.
But we'll see tomorrow. Chris Jones, I think you mentioned holding out for the contract. He did state today that he may show up tomorrow. Who knows? Whatever. Playing some mind games. Cardinals, as we talked about, did not officially announce their starting quarterback, but Adam Schefter reported today that his sources say it's Josh Dobbs, and Schefter's sources are usually right.
Then you traded for him, so,
Yeah. Well, and Dobbs has starting experience in the NFL, where Tune is a rookie, so I'm guessing they just want to go with the more experienced guy to start. Whatever. Why didn't you just stick with Colt McCoy? I don't know.
God, I feel like Josh Dobbs gives you better options than Colt McCoy. Noodle arm McCoy. I'd rather have Dobbs.
Hey, at least he was accurate checking down all those passes.
Yeah. I've watched
Seattle's
I've watched
Jackson Smith and Jigba going to play week 1. Packers receivers Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs may not play week 1. So a lot of injuries already.
Wide receivers for sure.
Yeah.
Don't the Packers have a few rookie wide receivers again this season? People are high on.
Jaden Daniel, I think is their rookie this year. Jaden Reed, thank you. Yeah.
So he gets a shot.
And Luke Musgrave, the tight end.
Mm-hmm. So chance for them to shine. They really don't have a lot there anymore. I mean, they're rookies from last season, plus they're rookie for this season, and then 3 names I've never heard of. So that is literally where the Packers are sitting at wide receiver. Yeah. So that's the news going into week 1. And lastly, I just wanted to do some fantasy focus here. I had a clever name. Tri-tips. I do love tri-tip. So we had some tri-tips. We got 3 players each for the 2 different sections, but I wanted to do it a little different because there's really no point in talking about who you should draft when literally everybody has already drafted. If you're listening to this podcast, there is no way your teams have not drafted because week 1 would have already started or is starting tonight if this podcast comes out in the morning tomorrow. So
there are people that draft after the first Thursday game.
That is insane to me.
Yeah. I had my last draft last night, and that was already very late to me.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to focus on things that can help you after your drafts. So let's talk about IR keeper sleepers. So these are players that you can stash on your IR and keep for the season or for next season that you might not know about. So first off, of my 3, I've got Tim Patrick. Like I said, 2020-2021, 50-plus catches, 700-plus yards, both of those seasons. 6, I think he said 6 touchdowns one season, 8 another. I mean, the guy was doing very well before he got injured. So Tim Patrick, one of those guys you can stuff on the ER in a keeper league or a dynasty league that may help you out next season, depending on if he can come back from his injury. But he was a very good player before his injury, so still worth a look, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me is the age. I believe he's 29 right now, so pretty 30 next year, and you don't know what the Broncos are going to do. I mean, they may not keep him next year. Then he's got to hope to catch on somewhere else. But yeah, when he was healthy, I mean, the guy's a heck of a receiver. Definitely their 3rd after Sutton and Judy, if not better than Judy. But I mean, the nice thing about the IR thing is you stash them, and it doesn't really cost you anything. So I mean, yeah, if you got open IR spots like we do in our dynasty league, or if you do in a keeper league, it's a great guy to stash on there and going into next year, just see where he's at on the depth chart or what team, and decide whether or not he's worth keeping.
Yep, I completely agree with myself.
My number 1, I went with. Actually, I'll start with Marlon Mack. I had my top 2. I like. I couldn't think of a 3rd one, to be perfectly honest. But then I remembered that Marlon Mack went on IR with the Cardinals, and I figured he's somebody to at least stash and see what team he ends up on next year. Because if you look around the league, if he was healthy, you can't tell me he wouldn't be competing in Indianapolis or the backup job in Dallas or even Miami. Maybe. I mean. It's a shame he got hurt. Even Arizona could use him as a backup right now. So
right now, next season probably. So yeah, he's a good one for sure. If nothing, James Conner is the only halfback of note in Arizona. Keontae Ingram has shown flashes, but he would not be who I would want to be picked as the backup for the Cardinals going into the season. Marlon Mack would have been perfect. So it could be the exact same thing next season for the Cardinals. So
yeah, absolutely.
My next one, I've got Nyheim Hines, another halfback, very similar to Marlon Mack, and great pass-catching running back, which always pairs well with an every down back. Like James Cook, I don't know a lot about James Cook, but I would imagine that James Cook paired with Naheem Hines on the Bills would be a massive 1-2 punch that would be great for fantasy because of the sheer amount of pass catching he did on the Colts. He's out for 2023, but he will be back next year fighting for spots. So the Bills depth chart, the running back has James Cook, then Damius Harris, and Latavius Murray. So it's not like there's a lot of young players stashed behind James Cook, which leaves it wide open for Naheem Hines, who's also not young, but that just old with old means that the fight there is up to him. So,
well, the pass catching is
and by the way, Naheem Hines is only 26, so he's not that old.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. James Cook looks to be a good pass catching running back, and Naheem Hines obviously is, and that's such an important part of the offense, especially in Buffalo. So, I definitely think Naheem Hines is going to be a big part of their offense next year when he's healthy.
Yep, I agree.
Number 2, I went with quarterback Hendon Hooker.
Hey, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's the perfect candidate, in my opinion, for somebody that can stash an IR. Probably going to be on IR for the entire season, and then next year maybe competing for the starting job. So why not stash him and see if you get yourself a nice late round starting quarterback next year?
Yep. He's supposed to come off the IR or he's on the 4-game IR. He's not on the full season IR. So he should be back to at least practice squad duty this season, which would give him a lot of reps against the number 1 defense on the Lions, which is supposed to be very good this year. So that would be good. Good practice for him as well. If nothing else, he is. If he doesn't start next year, there's a good. I don't know. I don't know if he'll start next year. We'll see. This is the last year of Jared Goff's. This is the last year of Jared Goff's contract, I believe, with the Lions, or it might be next year. But within this year or next year, he's going to be in that contention. So I agree completely with Hendon Hooker. So
yeah, awesome.
The last one I've got is Jalen Guyton, wide receiver for the Chargers. He was supposed to be the number 3 guy, or at least fight to be the number 3 guy with Josh Palmer in the high-powered Chargers offense, who always seem to have wide receivers hurt. Keenan Allen hurt a lot. Mike Williams hurt a lot, which gives people like Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton in an offense where Justin Herbert throws the ball a lot. Very good chances. So Jalen Guyton is a guy that you stash him, you're going to have a pretty good wide receiver in a pretty good offense starting off next year.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, he's made some big plays for the Chargers in the past. So it's a damn shame they're going to miss him this year.
Yep. I like
my
yours.
last one. I went with Kyler Murray. I've said before, I'm not sure he plays at all this year, so may stay on IR deep into the season. If he does miss the whole year, it's like Hendon Hooker. You're getting a free late round quarterback, but with Murray, it could be a top 10 guy. So
yeah,
why not? I actually did pick him up in one of my leagues and stash him on IR just to see what happens with him.
Yeah, because if he did get drafted, he got drafted very late, and if there are a lot of people that didn't draft him at all because there's not a lot of hope for the Cardinals this season, which means not a lot of hope that he'll score a lot of points when he's back, which means if he's just sitting in your free agent pool in a keeper league or a dynasty league, you can grab him and hold him till next year. So
yeah, absolutely.
And even if he's not a Cardinal next year, he's going to be starting somewhere. Kyler Murray will not be a backup next season. So you are in a good spot.
Yeah, he could be the starter in Atlanta or who knows where, but he'll definitely be starting, whether it's Arizona or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you've got the spot on IR, pick him up and put him there, and just wait and see what happens.
Yep. And the second part of Tri-Tips, we've got still mostly available players that are in the leagues you play in on ESPN. These are people, and we're doing, ESPN gives us the stats for this, but if I were to guess on most fantasy sports apps, it would be similar. Things pretty much stay the same across apps. It's just easier to get the data from ESPN than it is Sleeper and other places. So I'm using ESPN stats, but these are going to work for probably any league or app that you're in. So 3 players, we've each got 3 that you could probably pick up right now and upgrade on your team. And I think the biggest one for me, the number 1 pickup that I would give you right now is Marquise Valdez-Scantling from the Chiefs. Depending on where you look, he is listed as the number 1 guy in KC. A lot of places have Sky Moore as the number 1 guy, but a lot more places have MVS as the number 1 receiver in Kansas City. And this guy is available in 78% of ESPN leagues. 78%. I picked him up in a lot of my leagues in the draft, and I was able to pick him up in like the last few rounds of the draft, which is confusing to me because the guy's tall. If you watch the playoffs last year, with all the injuries to his receivers, MVD was a major target for Patrick Mahomes. I feel like this guy's going to have an awesome season in Kansas City, where his main competition is Rajee Rice, Sky Moore, and who's the other one?
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney. So Kadarius Toney, good receiver, but he hasn't shown much. So, yeah. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, wide receiver Chiefs. That would be my number 1 pickup if you need a wide receiver.
Yeah, the Chiefs' offense is obviously Kelsey's their top guy, but there's so much scoring that whoever ends up being their Mahomes' favorite receiver target is going to score a bunch of points. And everybody is just trying to guess at this point, going with Sky Moore or Rashee Rice or Kadarius Toney, and MVS is the more experienced option. Like you said, he's taller, he's a great red zone target, and you can pick him up. He's free. Drop your backup defense or backup kicker, pick him up and see what he does tomorrow night, and then decide whether or not you want to hang on to him. I mean, it's a great plan.
Yeah, it's just literally free for you right now.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. My number 1, I went with a quarterback. I know quarterback's fairly deep in a 12-teamer, but injuries are frequent, and it's always nice to have a reliable backup. And this is a guy I think is a pretty dang reliable backup. Derek Carr for the Saints is available in 71% of leagues, and he's got a lot of weapons. I know a lot of people are kind of over him because of his time in Las Vegas, but now he's got Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, Jimmy Graham's there, Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams. I think he's a solid backup. And in my opinion, I look at people that draft, like a lot of people drafted like Bryce Young because he's a rookie and things like that. And
Jordan Love because he's on the Packers, but they don't have receivers.
Yeah. So I just prefer Derek Carr. He's just a reliable, solid, when your guy's on bye, you put him in. If your quarterback goes down for a couple of games, I trust Derek Carr.
See, and I play matchups, right? I like matchups with my quarterbacks, especially if I've got 2 good ones. And Derek Carr is one of those ones that I could see playing the matchup to get more points, because it's like, for example, in my Dynasty League, I now have Deshaun Watson and Matthew Stafford. If Cooper Kupp was not injured, I would play those matchups with those 2 quarterbacks, because depending on who's playing who, you could get more points. And I feel like Derek Carr, with the weapons he has, is one of those types of quarterbacks that's available and could be used as a matchup point guy, depending on who your starter is, of course. You're not going to start him over Joe Burrow from week to week. But if you waited till the 5th or 6th round to take a quarterback, well, now you're in a spot where, you might want to see how good Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be this week versus Derek Carr or the defense they're playing, and put in one or the other. So I like that. I like Derek Carr as an option, especially if 71% of leagues don't have him.
Yeah, I took a lot of Tua this year because he was going late and he had a lot of upside, but he also has a lot of injury risk. So I in all my leagues want to make sure I've got a solid backup, and Carr's one that I got in a couple leagues is a guy that I know if Tua goes down and misses 3 or 4 games, that Carr can come in and get me some solid, possibly spectacular points if Michael Thomas is healthy. So,
Yep, I'm with you. My man number 2 is Gus Edwards, running back for the Ravens. If you watched this team last year, a very good team, when J.K. Dobbins is injured, which is often, Gus Edwards makes big plays, big runs, big plays. He's available in 78% of ESPN leagues. And even with Dobbins there, he's going to be playing. So even if he's not the starter, you're going to get points out of Gus Edwards. But on top of that, he's the handcuff to a guy that's often injured. So I feel like Gus Edwards is a really good running back to have on your team if you're in a deep league that doesn't have a lot of options, because he's available in 78% of leagues. Gus Edwards is. And you look at some of these halfbacks that people picked up before him, and I just don't feel like they're going to score the type of points that you would get out of Gus Edwards. So that's another running back option for you. And running backs are always one of the hardest positions to pull from. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, like you mentioned, J.K. Dobbins is injury prone, so it's always smart to have his backup. And especially if you have J.K. Dobbins, why not pick up Gus Edwards? That way, if Dobbins goes down, you have Edwards to fill right in.
Yep.
I also went with a running back. My running back was Zach Moss from the Colts. He's out right now with a broken wrist, I believe, but he's available in 93% of leagues and could possibly be their starter in week 2. So, again, running back is very shallow. I love to grab a bunch of running backs and keep them on my bench for a couple of weeks to see how they pan out, whether it be rookies or guys like this, because they traded for him last year when he played after Jonathan Taylor went out last year. He did well. I'm fairly certain that if he was healthy, he'd be their starter, and I think when he is healthy, he'll be their starter. So you could potentially pick up a starting running back that's available in 93% of leagues.
And I'm going to just handcuff that as well. Let me find him real quick. James Robinson has been linked there.
If he signs there, that changes everything.
Right. But what I'm saying is, James Robinson, to go along with the theme, is not owned in 99% of leagues. So depending on what happens with the Colts running back situation, you can either take James Robinson or you can take Zach Moss. They're both available. So either way, You're going to have a starting running back that's available in almost every league. So my last one is Zay Jones, the wide receiver from the Jaguars. Did you know that Zay Jones of the Jaguars last year had more targets than Mike Evans, Chris Olave, and Jalen Waddle over the season?
I was curious about that stat, so I actually pulled it up, and it's not entirely correct, at least according to this website.
Which website?
So I don't know where you found it. FantasyPros.com. It says Mike Evans had 127 targets, Zay Jones 121. Chris Olave 119, Jalen Waddle 117. So it's 66% correct.
Okay, so I wonder if that stat was regular season, not throwing playoffs into the mix.
Yeah, this is just week 1 through 18.
Okay, so either way, very close. Zay Jones was targeted a lot last season. Available in 70% of ESPN leagues. Now, obviously, teams change and things change, but the quarterback did not change. So Trevor Lawrence likes Zay Jones. Zay Jones is still on the team. The odds that Zay Jones is going to be targeted a lot this season, you can probably bet on that. So Zay Jones is another good wide receiver that you could pick up in a league. He's less available than the other two I said, but even still, 70% is a leaves a very good chance that he's available in your league.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't realize how close he was to like Christian Kirk as far as targets go. Christian Kirk was targeted 133 times, so Zay Jones was only missed him by 12 targets. That's pretty impressive. Because a lot of people don't talk about Zay Jones. They don't think about Zay Jones. Calvin Ridley does kind of ruin that a little bit because I think it bumps Zay Jones to the third receiver. But he's still, and the Jaguars' offense is going to be a lot more high scoring than people think. I really do expect Trevor Lawrence to bust out in that offense to score a lot of points, and Zay Jones could definitely be a big part of that, especially if he's playing in the slot. So,
yep,
I like it.
Who's your last one?
It. My last one's a deep sleeper. It is Diami Brown from the Commanders, who is available in 99.9% of ESPN leagues. There's basically two reasons for this. The number one is the most obvious. He was Sam Howell's college teammate. They know each other. They've played together. They trust each other. But the other one that I don't think a lot of people really realize is that Diami Brown has overtaken Curtis Samuel to be the third receiver for the Commanders. In camp, in preseason, he was their third receiver. In the Bengals game, he caught a touchdown right before halftime from Sam Howell. And if you watch the plays, Sam Howell throws to Diami Brown, and Diami drops it, and the next play, Sam goes right back to him because that's his boy. So I really expect Diami Brown to be a bigger part of the offense than anyone has any clue. I don't think he's going to be a top 36 receiver or something crazy like that, but as the season goes along, I definitely think he could get you 6-7 points a game, something in deeper leagues. I'm in a 16-team league. It's a great option there. The other thing I want to point out is right now he's projected to score 32.5 points this entire year, and I almost guarantee that he will score more than that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is insane. So someone on these fantasy apps is not keeping up with the depth chart.
No, they are not.
So,
but yeah, if you're in a 16-team league or just want to stash somebody to see, hey, maybe this guy, especially if Terry McLaurin is hurt for a couple weeks and Diami Brown becomes the number 2 option and is on the field more, I really do expect Sam Howell to look his way a lot more. So, watch.
I feel like these are important tips for you to have because I hate playing with the waiver wire when a person breaks out and you're like, will I get him? Knowing this now beforehand is huge because then you don't have to play that game. You just have them. So keep an eye on these guys so you don't have to play that waiver wire game, especially if you're a good team. So you want to have
That's
them early.
The worst thing is putting that waiver in on Tuesday and knowing that there's no chance in hell that you're going to get the player. And then, Wednesday morning you wake up and you look and it's like 6 waiver claims are processed and you definitely didn't get that player.
That's why one of my leagues went into an FAAB budget.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of waivers. Oh, I love it so much.
I'm like, okay,
so I've got a chance.
And I'm in a league that does that too. And the problem is like, it's a little more confusing for lesser experienced players, and in a lot of the leagues that I run I have some lesser experienced players, so I try to keep it simple with waivers.
It's just like I don't pick up a lot of people during the season. Most of the time my drafts are decent enough, or I just decide to roll with what I have. But when I can spend $50 knowing of my $120 for the season, knowing no one else is going to pay that much to get the guy I want.
Oh yeah.
When my team's good, I'm all about it. So
see, it's funny. I do a lot of ad drops throughout the year because I usually carry like 6 receivers and running backs, and those final spots I rotate. I'm like, all right, who's a backup that I want to have this week just in case the starter goes down, or who's a rookie that's been getting more touches.
I'm not even rotating the same position. I'm just rotating the worst of the ones that I have out to have a second tight end to play that week during the bye. And then after that bye week, that tight end is probably gone to pick up a player to fill another player that's on bye if I didn't have a backup. Like kickers, I always rotate a kicker out for the best one that's on the free agent league, or defensive fronts. There's almost always a better defense out there than the one I have currently when it's time for the buy to come around. And most of the time I don't even go and pick up back what I had. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
I almost do it weekly. I'll look at defenses and just try to pick up the defense playing the worst team.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there you go. We got some players we'll have to keep an eye on. I will say this, the name Tri-Tips, I thought it would be 3 groups of 3 players.
It was, but then I stopped. I had a third thing in here, but I got rid of it.
You should have gone with what we did last year. Was our top 5 was players that we ended up drafting more than we thought we would. Basically, like what players in fantasy did you not plan on drafting, and then you ended up with them like all over the place.
Dude, there are a lot of them. A lot of them on my teams.
I have a lot of the same team. I drafted 7, 8, 9 in a lot of places, so I ended up with a lot of the same players.
I only had one draft where I wasn't making back-to-back picks. Because
Lucky.
I won 2 leagues. I should have won our Dynasty League. And the other one I was just right in the middle. So I wasn't back-to-back in the Dynasty League, but I might as well have been because I was right there at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, most of my leagues I was the last person to pick in the first round. Not to mention I traded my Dynasty pick to you, so I didn't even pick in the first round.
You did, yeah, and I appreciate it because it allowed me to get Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, worked out well. Yeah, let's move into week 1 preview and talk about these games and start off our predictions for the year.
Yes.
Always a good time. So let's do it. Starting off with the first game of the week, the Lions at the Chiefs, where the Chiefs are favored by 5.5 points, despite not having Kelsey or Chris Jones. So interesting there.
This is going to be a great game. I want the Lions to win. I think the Lions will still win the division. This is a tough contest, especially on the road to start the season. I got to go with the Chiefs.
And I will pick the Chiefs only because I just refuse to pick the Lions and jinx them. So.
I understand.
What's next?
Bengals at Browns. Bengals favored by 2.5. You talked about this, the Battle of Ohio. This is definitely one of those games that I could see the quote-unquote upset. I mean, it's only a 2.5 line. But I'm still going with the Bengals just because I like Deshaun Watson, I like Nick Chubb, but I love Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon.
Well, see, you left out a player there that makes it about even on both sides, and that is Amari Cooper, who they also have. So I'm picking the Browns because they're at the home, and I feel like these two teams, I think the Bengals are the better team, but I don't think that they're that far ahead of the Browns, so I'm going to pick the Browns because they're at home in the upset.
Yeah, that's fair because I did that exact same thing in the next game, which is the 49ers at Steelers. 49ers favored by 2.5. I'm going with the Steelers. They're at home. It's Mike Tomlin, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson. Both of the teams are loaded. 49ers do probably have the better defense, but I feel like Mike Tomlin's going to find a way to pull this one out.
So I'm going to go the opposite again. So we already have two different. I'm going to go with the 49ers just because I do not understand how the team that's probably going to be in the NFC Championship, possibly the Super Bowl, is at the same level as the Steelers, who might be encroaching the top 10 of the AFC over there. So I'm taking the 49ers. Even though I like the Steelers, I just don't see how this line is that close. So next up, you got the Buccaneers at the Vikings, where the Vikings, this is another one I don't understand. The Vikings are favored by 6 over the Buccaneers. Okay. I mean, I guess that's the Justin
Baker Mayfield.
That's apparently the Justin Jefferson effect because Baker Mayfield has Godwin, Mike Evans. I mean, he's got all kinds of targets there. It's not like he doesn't have anyone to throw to, and it's so I don't understand the line here. I'm still going to take the Vikings because they're at home, and I think they are probably the better team. I just don't understand how that is one of the furthest apart spreads for the entire week. Like, that's confusing.
The funny thing is that I'm gonna place a bet on the Bucks, especially to cover that spread, because I don't think the Bucks are that bad. But I just can't pick them. I think the Vikings are gonna be a lot worse than people think this year. Mm-hmm. But I'm still not gonna pick Baker Mayfield to go into Minnesota and upset them in week 1.
No.
I think they'll cover 6, but I'm still going with the Vikings.
Makes sense to me.
Panthers at Falcons. Falcons favored by 3.5. I'm going with the Falcons. This one is almost a toss-up, but I didn't like the way Bryce Young looked in the preseason. Desmond Ridder at least has started, some games in the NFL, and I do think Bijan Robinson can run all over the Panthers.
The Bijan Robinson factor is the big one here for me. Because without him, I don't know what they're doing. Drake London's their best receiver on the Falcons. Didn't even realize that until drafts this season. They just don't have a lot of options there. Panthers have a lot of wide receiving options, but you don't know who the one is going to be. And then I just do not believe in Miles Sanders. So I'll take the Falcons, only assuming that Bijan Robinson just eats the Panthers alive.
That's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. I just don't think Bryce Young just didn't really look that good in preseason. So I think it's going to take him some time to adjust. But Jaguars at Colts. Jaguars favored by 4.5. Now, why are the Jaguars only favored by 4.5?
Yeah, against the Colts.
The Colts don't have Jonathan Taylor.
Don't have a running back. Deion Johnson. Yeah. Is that their starter this week?
And are starting Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Like, I do not understand this one. Like, at all. I know that home teams usually are given, a 3-point bump just because they're the home team. But, yeah, this one, I picked the Jaguars. I'm definitely picking Jags to cover 4.5 because the Jaguars are going to be a great team. Like, they just this one blew my mind. I don't know what Vegas saw in the Colts.
Next up, you've got the Titans at the Saints. The Saints are favored by 3 points. That's a good thing for the Saints because I would think that the Titans would be favored in this game, but Titans on the decline over the last year to this year. Saints getting Derek Carr, looking pretty good. I almost want to pick the Titans just because I know that they are still a good team, and they they've got oh God, what is the guy that's always injured on the Cardinals that they traded, wide receiver?
DeAndre Hopkins.
They've got Hopkins now for Tannehill to throw to. Still got Derrick Henry. Yep. Tyjae Spears, very good running back. It's just, this is going to be an interesting one. I don't want to put myself in a massive hole against you by picking different, but I think I'm going to take this. I think I'm going to take the Titans.
Yeah, the thing is that we do our picks and we got the competition, but it's also just for fun. I mean, we didn't have anything on the line.
I don't want to lose again. 2 seasons in a row. Right. On the last week, I blow my lead and end up losing.
Well, next week you can put your picks in first, since I went through and added all my picks. So
I saw that and I was like, "Aren't we doing this on the actual podcast?" So I don't. I
didn't remember, so I didn't remember. I just put everything on there. So next week we'll do it that way because I don't want you to feel pressured to picking opposite me.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Cardinals at
Commanders.
Commanders.
And Commanders. Commanders favored by 7, which. Again, I'm going to pick the Cardinals to cover that simply because we don't beat people by 7 points. We just don't. I mean, we'll win the game, but it ain't going to be by 7. It's going to be by 2. But I'm definitely picking the Commanders. it wouldn't surprise me if the Cardinals pulled this out of their ass, just based off history. But it does feel new owner. The fans, it's already a sellout. Fans are already planning to tailgate their asses off. The stadium should be rocking with Commander fans, not opposing fans like it usually is. So I'm very excited for this game.
I'm not going to pick the Cardinals until they win a game. And the thing is, a lot of people think this is the most winnable game on their schedule. So if I'm not picking them in this one, there's probably a good chance that I'm not picking them all season. So
I think the only other game that they have a legitimate chance
Houston
is Falcons and Texans. But the Falcons game is home. In fact, no, that's not the one we're going to. But the Falcons game is a home game, so I could see them pulling that out. The Texans game on the road, yes, as well, but and honestly, the Rams at home, I could see them winning that game too. They might win 3 games this year.
Yeah. We shall see.
We're going to the Bengals game, my friend.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That's gonna be a fun game.
Texans at the Ravens. Ravens favored by 10 points on the Texans. I mean, duh. I think the Texans are better than they were last year, but and I think they'll cover that 10.
Exactly.
I think they'll probably lose by a touchdown, but I'm not picking against the Ravens. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Ravens win this game, but I do think the Texans cover by 10. And I'm sitting here saying I'm gonna go open up FanDuel and actually place this little parlay as we're doing this for all these teams I feel like are gonna cover the spread.
Yeah, I've been looking
Ravens.
Wait, Odell. Oh yeah, it's Odell Beckham that's on the Ravens.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute, didn't I just say he was on the Titans? But that was Hopkins.
DeAndre. Yeah.
I'm excited to see Beckham on the...
I'm intrigued to see Beckham, yeah.
I mean, I don't have any reason to think he's not going to be good. He was really good on the Rams. Then he got hurt. He was out last season. Now he's back again. I believe he'll be totally fine. And then he's on a good team. That's a good spot for him. You got the Eagles.
Absolutely.
The Eagles at the Patriots. Eagles favored by 3.5.
Which is low. Eagles all the way.
I don't. I'm not high on the Patriots. They just don't. No. They don't have any. Who are their receivers?
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Who's
Mike Gesicki.
Who there was literally a report out this week that said Juju's knee could blow up at any moment. That was the headline. Like,
wow,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
They have Devontae Parker, which I thought was a really good signing for them, but he's questionable. He might not even play. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. But I'm definitely picking the Eagles over the Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
And here's another one we're going to differ on. The Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos favored by 4 points. I am not picking the Broncos until they win a game. Sorry, Sean Payton, but you're going to it's the same shell with a new coach. You just have to prove it to me before that happens. The Raiders are a good team. The Raiders have good players. They may not have Derek Carr to be replaced by Jimmy Garoppolo, who no one even wanted, not even the 49ers last season. But I'll still take the Raiders over the Broncos until the Broncos can show that it was all Nathaniel Hackett's fault, not theirs.
Yeah, this ought to be a really interesting game to see two teams that I really don't know what to expect from either one of them. I'm going with the Broncos, but yeah, this is definitely an up in the air type game.
Next up, you got the Packers at the Bears, where the Bears, of all people, are favored by 1.5 for the closest spread of the week, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
So this one's basically a draw at this point. I want to pick the Bears just because I want the Bears to win this game, but I'm going to pick the Packers just because history tells us not to bet against the Packers for some stupid reason. So I'm gonna take the Packers in this one.
I really want the Bears to win, and looking at it, you'd think that they would, but it's Bears Packers, and I think over the last 30 years the Bears are like terrible again. I'm gonna actually look at the record. I'm curious. But yeah, I can't pick. It's like with you and the Broncos. I can't pick the Bears until they actually show me they can do it. Let's see. The Bears have a record of 14-46 against the Packers in the last 30 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll just pick on the side of history and go with the Packers.
Next up, you've got the Dolphins at the Chargers. Chargers favored by 3 points.
This is such a fun game to watch.
That's a tough one. That is one of those 50-50 flip a coin games. But since the Chargers are home, I'm going to pick the Chargers.
Yep, that's exactly what I did. I picked the home team in this one.
And the next game is an easy pick for me. The Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks are favored by 5.5. The Seahawks, I'm picking them simply because I have no faith that the Rams will do anything until they show me they do. And if Cooper Kupp is out,
especially without Cooper Kupp,
I say if Cooper Kupp is out, they're not showing nothing. I don't think so.
No Cooper Kupp, no me picking you.
Yeah, not to mention they've lost almost every big piece of their defense they've had, besides Aaron Donald. So,
right, but all they have to do is just triple team Aaron Donald.
Yeah, exactly. That's no Jalen Ramsey anymore. So
no Leonard Floyd, no Bobby Wagner.
The Cowboys at the Giants, with the Cowboys favored by 3.5. You have the Giants. I'm going to go ahead and take the Cowboys because I feel like the Giants are going to regress a ton from what they did last season. I think Saquon Barkley's still going to be really good. They don't have anyone to throw it to, but they didn't last year either. So there is that.
People to throw it to.
Yeah,
it was the same. Too many people to throw it to.
It was the same situation last year as far as receivers go. Kenny Golladay being gone. Darren Waller's definitely an intriguing prospect there, but
I'll tell you why I picked the Giants. I picked it because it seems like the last couple of years, the Cowboys in Week 1 always, especially primetime, they always find a way to lose. And then everybody panics, and then the Cowboys seem to be fine. Yeah. So it's a divisional matchup. It's in New York. And, I looked through the list and I thought, all right, there's always a couple upsets that happen. What are some of the ones that I can try to predict? And this is one of the ones that I went with because it's divisional foes. So everything goes out the window.
Understood. Last up, Monday Night Football. Very good game. Bills at the Jets. The Bills are favored by 2.5 points.
I'm definitely going with the Bills.
Jesus,
yeah, they're my Super Bowl pick. So
I didn't even go with my Super Bowl pick.
I know you didn't
this week. So I just don't. I don't know what I want to do. I kind of want to just go with what you did, so I have one less that's different. But I really do feel
the thing is, if you feel that the Jets are going to win, it's an opportunity for you to get one up on me. So, why not just go with it's your picks. Just go with your gut instinct.
Well, my gut is that the Jets, after being on Hard Knocks and showing a lot, are going to win this game.
There you go.
In prime time. So I'll go with the Jets. Now we go for a confidence. Who is your confidence pick for the week for the extra point?
So are we going to add any rules to that? Because I know last year we were just picking like the biggest blowouts, the easiest ones as our confidence pick. Do we want to add any contributing rules like the line can't be bigger than a certain amount, or do we want to just go with whatever we want to go with?
Okay, let's make it so the line can't be over 6.
Okay.
How's that?
There you go. See, that way we can't pick this one-sided blowouts.
The Ravens to pick the Texans?
The Texans? Exactly. Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Okay, let's take a look here at this list.
See, the biggest thing is, right, to pick for me, it's going to be picking a confidence in one of the ones that we have different, so I gain an extra point on you.
Oh, okay. Interesting. See, I just want to make sure I get that point. All right, I'm gonna go with the Jags against the Colts. The line's 4.5, which I think is low anyways.
The one yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Jags.
All right. Well, I'm looking at our different picks here. And it's looking like I'm going to make my confidence pick the 49ers at the Steelers.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best option for you.
Yeah. So that is it. Bonus pick on the 49ers over the Steelers. Who I have the 49ers, you have the Steelers. So that would give me an extra 1 point that you didn't get at least. So there's that. Yeah. That should do it, I think. I can't talk about foreplay because they don't have all the options available for the foreplay up yet on their website until tomorrow, because every option for picking a player having over this many yards or under this many yards isn't up yet until tomorrow. At least it wasn't.
They don't have every player on there, which is really weird. I
feel like they have to, I feel like that has to show up tomorrow, because otherwise, where did all that stuff go? You know what I mean? So I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to make my foreplay picks, because I think there'll be more options.
So I went with the Sam Laporta anytime touchdown, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I tried to go with more guaranteed, the other three to be easier to get, since the Sam Laporta one's going to be a little more trickier. So I went with the total of 65.5. I went under. The actual line is 52.5. So I should, if they somehow do go over 62.5, that's going to be a ridiculous game, or 65.5.
Yeah.
I went with Isaiah Pacheco over 25 yards rushing. Should be easy.
Yeah.
And the Lions to cover 14.5, meaning that as long as they don't get blown out by 15 or more points, that one's a gimme.
Yeah.
So, and I still ended up getting like plus 400 odds on it because of the Sam Laporta touchdown. So,
not to mention, I don't know what app you're using, but I have a profit bonus. Did you get the profit bonus for that game? Look in your notifications. You should.
Oh, so that's gonna bum me out that I didn't use that.
Yeah. So I'll be dropping my profit bonus on something that should be a very fun.
Basically, bet. Yeah. Basically, I'll win my foreplay if Sam Laporta catches a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm also when we were going through our picks, I decided to open up FanDuel and look at the lines. I'm gonna place a 6-leg parlay on some of these lines that I think are ridiculous. Texans +10, Bucks +6, Cardinals +7, Jags -4.5, Eagles -4, Bills -2.5. So we'll see how that pans out.
Nice. I am happy football's back. Week 1 starting tomorrow.
Oh, it's just so much fun. Do you do daily fantasy usually?
I don't like them. I just don't like them for some reason.
Okay.
I like straight up bets.
I like to go in and do like the dollar like not the ones where it's like $20 to entry and shit.
Yeah.
I do the cheap ones just because it is fun.
I've never won one, and I don't want to put money back into the app, so I'm not interested.
I've won a couple.
So. I've played baseball ones. I've played football ones. I've never won a daily fantasy.
See, I've never tried baseball because there's just too many players I don't know. Like football, I'm comfortable with the, like I know a lot of the players. But baseball, especially nowadays, I can look at a list of like first basemen in the league and I won't recognize a single name.
Nice.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Ridiculous, but I am looking forward to watching football tomorrow and Sunday and next Wednesday, recapping week 1 and all the crazy things that we can't even imagine right now that are going to happen, because that's just what happens in week 1.
Yep, exactly. So, you got any final thoughts before I close us out?
No, just like I said, looking forward to football being back, and hope everybody enjoys the week 1 and joins us next week to hear our reactions and any big news that comes out of it. Any bold predictions or calls you think are going to happen this week? Anybody going to catch like 3 touchdowns or something crazy?
I'm going to call Jonathan Mingo having a big game.
Oh, okay. I like that.
That's
I like
my.
that. I'm going to go with I'm actually going to go with the Cardinals-Commanders game. Zach Ertz has a touchdown and over 100 yards receiving.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yep.
Well, so that's,
Commanders have no linebackers. Commanders have no linebackers to cover tight ends. So Zach Ertz will be that offense.
So if I were to go that way, I would have just picked James Conner to have 100 yards rushing.
See, I like our defensive line.
But
So,
I feel like
I think
all the offense Arizona's going to have this entire season without Kyler is James Conner.
Oh, yeah, just hand the ball off.
So-
Either that or just chucking the ball deep to Hollywood, which he'll probably catch a long one against us, too, because our safeties usually get burned. So Cardinals will put up a fight. That's the thing. They will be able to put up a fight.
Yep. So we'll see. Until next week, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate all of you listening to the podcast and hanging out. We'll be back next week for episode 9, the start of the regular season recaps, as well as our previews for the next week. But until then, you can find us on Twitter /X at Coffin Corners. You can find us on TikTok, Coffin Corner Podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Coffin Corner, and you can find us on the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. So go check us out. Go enjoy your first week of football, and we will be back next week for episode 9. Until then, everybody, I hope you have a great week and enjoy your team.
Bye, everyone.